Yo, what's going on, guys? So we just got the announcement of the Crucible League. So in today's video I want to talk about the league mechanic, then go over the patch notes, obviously not everything, just the most important stuff, and then at the end I want to mention what are my plans for the upcoming week before the league start. So first let's talk about the league mechanic. So it is called obviously Crucible, and the way it works is you channel this statue. The longer you channel it, more and more monsters and more powerful monsters are gonna spawn, and then you're gonna be able to basically enhance your weapons with passive tree, and depending on how long you channel it, you're gonna get more experience for this passive tree, and then you're gonna be able to allocate them, which, to be honest, it's a very interesting mechanic, and I think it's gonna be a highlight of the league. It's very big power creep, but I think the biggest issue I have right now with the league mechanic is that you're gonna have to carry your weapons. So basically the way it's gonna work, if you want to enchant the weapon with passive tree, you're gonna have it equipped on you or in your weapon swap. So if you, for example, don't get anything good as your first passive, you're basically gonna throw away the weapon, you're gonna equip a new one, and the next one, and next one, basically fish for as best possible outcomes as possible. So it's gonna be very annoying in terms of managing your items. But it is gonna make bases much more valuable, so farming like high item level content to get item level 86 bases is gonna be pretty good, especially for the weapons, obviously, because you can only do that with weapons. But it does remind me a bit of Scourge, and in Scourge I actually hated how you had to carry a lot of items to crangle them, so I think it's gonna be very similar. You're gonna have to save a lot of weapons just for this league mechanic. So that's my biggest fear about this mechanic, that it's gonna get annoying eventually. Another thing we will have access to is called remnants. So the way they work is you're gonna drop them from Crucible encounters, and you're gonna open them just like regular maps. You're gonna kill some monsters, and then at the end you're gonna find Forge of the Titans. And the way it works is similar to Recombinators, how it worked in Sentinel. You're basically gonna combine two items together, and you're gonna combine their passive trees. So the weapon at the top is gonna be consumed, and it's gonna be melted with the bottom one, so the bottom one's base is gonna stay. So this way, if you find two weapons that have pretty good passives, but both of them are not ideal, you're gonna be able to combine them together, and hopefully you're gonna end up with perfect passives on your weapon. Also, there are some special passives that you can get that lets you sell your weapons for specific rewards. So for example, this one lets you sell a weapon for unique siege axe, because this base is a siege axe, so this is a good way to find soul takers. Also, another one example that we got is basically a weapon sells for one divine orb. So we don't know what are the other possible outcomes, but definitely you're gonna be able to make some currency just from passives. You're not gonna have to just craft perfect passives for their modifiers. You're gonna be able to make currency this way too. And that's basically it in terms of the league mechanic. So to be honest, we didn't get that much new content to do from the league mechanic itself, but we did get some changes to old content. So for example, Breach has been reworked. Now it's gonna spawn way more monsters. The charged, pure, and enriched Bridgestone has been removed. Flawless now can be upgraded with blessings, and blessings are now gonna be way rarer, so they're gonna be more expensive probably, and also the uniques that come from the Bridgestones are gonna be way better. They have been rebalanced. So hopefully Bridge is gonna be now pretty good way to make some currency. Same thing with Abyss, it has been buffed. Now Abyssal Death always contains a leech, and also a lot of uniques that come from Abyss has been reworked, so hopefully they're gonna be way better. And also now Stygian Spire can appear in a map instead of the chest at the end of Abyss, which will drop some belts and the jewels. So Stygian Vices and Abyss jewels. Another thing that got a lot of changes are two Ascendancies, so Saboteur and Pathfinder. Without going too much into details, Saboteur now not only supports mine and trap builds, but also trigger builds, so things like Cast on Crit, Spellslinger, and so on. So what he got is now he's gonna be able to summon two trigger bots, which will trigger your, well, trigger spells. but now they will do 35% less damage. So you will basically have your trigger spells duplicated, but they will do less damage, which basically means you're gonna get around 30% more damage. But it is pretty good for clear, because if you shoot projectiles, now basically you're gonna shoot double the amount of them. They are gonna deal less damage, but yeah, it should help you with clear, and it's still 30% more damage, so that should be pretty good. Hopefully it's not gonna be too bad on the performance, because you're gonna have so many spells triggered. And the same thing with like Clockwork, which is 30% increased cooldown recovery rate for trigger queues. And pretty much every single trigger spell has some kind of cooldown, so how fast can it trigger? So this way you're gonna be able to trigger it 30% more often. Obviously it's additive with other sources of increased cooldown recovery rate, so it's not exactly 30% more damage, but still it's pretty good. And there are some other good Ascendancy passive that help you with that playstyle, like additional crit multi, crit chance, and elemental damage ban towards burning, shocked, and chilled enemies. Some additional damage from area hits, and reduced damage taken from blind hits, and you blind on hit. And the second Ascendancy is Pathfinder. So this one is more interesting to me, because I've been playing Toxic Reigns for many leagues in a row, and I've been playing most of the time Pathfinder. So I think this Ascendancy got nerfs and buffs at the same time, so it's kind of hard to say if it's gonna be better or worse. I think overall it should be better, because now we have 30% increase effect of Magic Flask instead of 20, and it used to be on Master Alchemist, now it is on Nature's Boon, so it is a bit earlier. You don't have to spend 4 points, just 2 points, so Magic Flasks are gonna have better effectiveness. We got Master Distiller, which doesn't do anything for Toxic Rain, but it should be good for some other Ascendancies, other builds. So basically the way it works is kind of like Poisonous Concoction. You're gonna consume some charges depending on what flask you are using, and you're gonna get additional effects. So for Diamond Flask, increase crit chance; for Bismuth Flask, penetrate 20% elemental resist; and for Amethyst Flask, 25% physical damage as extra chaos damage. So none of them are good for Toxic Rain, but they should be pretty good for some other builds. Also, we lost some attack speed and movement speed from Nature's Adrenaline, but now here we get the 3 charges every 3 seconds instead of from the Nature's Boon, which doesn't matter too much, to be honest. I think it was like 20% attack speed and 15% movement speed, which obviously sucks, but we can get a little bit of that back from the Nature's Boon. Master Surgeon now instead of giving us a very good recovery from just spamming the flasks, now it gives the Enduring mode to Life Flask, but you're gonna get 50% less life recovery from Flask, but it's still pretty good way to just constantly recover your life. And actually also on top of that, the old Master Surgeon, so recover 6% life whenever you use a Flask, now is on Flask Mastery. Although it's now 4% instead of 6, but it's still out there, so we can still go for that. And in fact, every single Ascendancy can use that Mastery now, so you don't have to be Pathfinder. And the last thing is Nature's Reprisal. Now it inflicts Wither on hit, and also it gives us 50% increased effect of Wither. It used to be some area of effect, and I believe 15% more chaos damage, so we lost some damage, but I think it is way better than what we had in here, because if you think about it, Wither gives us 6% increased chaos damage, so for 15 stacks, because it can stack up to 15, it's 90% basically more damage, and 50% increased effect is another 45%, so it's quite a lot of damage. It also gives us an easy access to Wither. You don't have to use jewels or totems or anything like that, so it's just nice quality of life. And if you attack fast, you're gonna be able to apply 15 stacks very fast anyway, so it's actually just very good point. So I think Toxic Rain Pathfinder is still very good. It's just a little bit different. So that's it in terms of the changes from the announcement. So now let's go over the patch notes. So first category of changes I want to talk about is changes to overall balance. And then the second one is changes to farming strategies. So let's start with the balance. So first thing is that there has been a lot of balance changes for leveling. So for example, Onslaught support gem has been removed and a new momentum support gem has been added in its place. We don't know exactly what momentum it's gonna do, but it's safe to assume that it's gonna be some kind of mobility support. Second thing is that crafting recipes for wands that would increase flat elemental damage also has been removed. So this is a big nerf for elemental builds leveling that used wands. In return, we got changes to some wands. So now instead of getting some spell damage, they're gonna give us flat elemental damage, but we are still losing increased spell damage, so it's not that big of a buff, but it's still something, I guess. But overall, elemental damage has been nerfed. Next thing is Molten Shell. It's not necessarily leveling, but Molten Shell overall has been nerfed. So let me find it. Now, instead of being able to absorb up to 10,000 damage, we're only gonna be able to absorb 5,000. And Vow Molten Shell, instead of 30,000, only 10,000. So it's a pretty big nerf. But Ranger actually got some nice buffs. So first of all, the new cluster multi-shot gives attacks an additional projectile, and also Master Fletcher now gives bow attacks additional arrow. So if you are bow build, you get +2 arrows. If you are some attack build that shoots projectiles, for example Venom Gyre, you get +1 arrow. But to counter that, we lost a little bit of damage from some small passive points and so on. So it's not just straight up +2 arrow and that's it. We did get some nerf in return, but overall it still should be a pretty big buff. Also, because of this, we lost 2 arrows from the synthesis. So here we can read that synthesis implicit modifier can no longer roll on bow and quiver. The bow attacks fire an additional arrow. So in the end game, like with super expensive gear, we will be pretty much the same as in the past, but in the early game, we are getting +2 arrows. On top of that, a lot of masteries has been changed. So let me find them. There is quite a lot of changes, so I'm not gonna go through all of that, but most notable ones are, for example, Chaos Mastery. Now you recover 1% life per Wither debuff on each enemy you kill, which synergizes very well with changes to Pathfinder, because you're gonna be able to very easily apply Wither, so this is a very good recovery for Pathfinder. Also 5% chance to inflict 15 Wither instead of 1, so helps you with inflicted withers and so on. Also the Leech Mastery, let me find it, now gives 10% of leeches instant. So this is also a pretty good defensive tool. And there is a lot of good changes, like Life Mastery, 15% increased life when you have no life body armor. And if you take 6 masteries, the Life Masteries, you're gonna get 10% more life. So there's quite a lot of good masteries here. You count as low life at 55% of maximum life. You count as full life at 90%. This is very good for enabling on full life effects. So overall, a lot of good mastery changes, but like I said, we got some nerfs. Also, let me find Mana Mastery. This one, 12% increase mana reservation efficiency. So we lost mana reservation efficiency on reservation mastery in the past, or aura mastery, I don't remember the name, but now we can get it on mana. But to be honest, mana points are usually not that great, so it is overall a nerf, but at least we got it. But also we actually lost a lot of reservation efficiency just for specific auras. For example, Armor Mastery lost Determination reservation efficiency, for Accuracy Precision, and so on. So we lost all of them. Now let's go over the farming strategies changes, so things that affect that. So like I already mentioned, Breach and Abyss got buffed, but other than that, we had a reshuffle of the maps. So most notable ones, in my opinion, are Ashen Woods is being removed. This is just my favorite map. I've been farming a lot of Ashen Woods in the past few leagues, and now it's removed. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to farm some other maps. In return, we got Core, which is actually a very good map for Blight. So if you are planning to farm Blight, this is a very good map for it. Obviously, you can still do it in Toxic Sewers, but Core is also a very good choice. Also, we got Beach back, which, to be honest, is very similar to Ashen Woods in my opinion. It's just very small map with easy boss to kill, so I'm probably gonna farm Beach instead of Ashen Woods. And Doctor now can actually drop in more maps because Burial Chamber is not gonna be here, and also Spider Forest. So now instead of these maps, Sepulchre, Waste Pool, and Phantasmagoria is gonna drop Doctors. So the best one out of all of them is Waste Pool, in my opinion. So if you're planning to farm that, well, Waste Pool is also pretty good for Blight, so you can combine farming Blight with farming Doctors if you want to do something like that. The next thing is changes to Invitations farming. So actually Invitations has been nerfed decently last time. We lost some of the Invitations passive, and now we're actually losing even more. So the small passive that would give 3% increased quantity of items found in Crucible has been removed. And if you use the keynote, I don't remember the name, Keystone, that would duplicate it, you would get 6%. And I believe there was like 3 of them, or maybe even more. So it was actually quite a lot of quantity, so we lost some splinters. But in return, now final map boss in each map has 8% chance to drop Invitation. So Invitations should be a bit cheaper. If you are farming Invitations, maybe you're gonna sustain a little bit more of the Invitations. So at least we got something in return. Also, they mentioned that Maven Invitation should drop more splinters just without this passive, but I still don't think it's gonna counter this nerf. And next change is actually probably one of the biggest changes, which is now Harvest crafting option, which would let the map not consume sextant charges. Now it's gonna have only 50% chance to not consume sextant charges. So this has been pretty much the pinnacle of mapping strategies. Everyone just has been doing infinite sextants with 2 harvest compasses plus Winged Scarab and Conqueror maps. So this has been very popular strategy recently. So unfortunately, it has been nerfed. You will still be able to use it as a 50% chance, but obviously it's not infinite. And also Yellow Life Force, because of this, is probably gonna be a bit cheaper. And one of the reasons why they did it is probably because of the Kirak map mods, because now we get Harvest for 12 Chaos. So this would be, you will be able to use it instead of the compass. So you would have 3 other compasses instead of 2, because normally you would have a compass for guaranteed harvest and for duplicated Yellow Life Force. Now you would be able to use 3, so you just need the 1 for Yellow Life Force. So it would be a big strategy this league. For other Kirak map bots, nothing to be honest too interesting. Essence is obviously pretty good. For early game, you're gonna be able to farm quite a lot of currency just from essences. Strongboxes and Metamorph is kind of whatever. Abyss is pretty good if you're farming Delirium. Also, we got some changes to Abyss, so maybe Abyss is gonna be much better than in the past. I guess we'll have to see. Heist is pretty good, but overall it's probably just gonna make contracts much cheaper, so eventually it's just not gonna be worth it. But early on in the league, it should be pretty good. Also, it's gonna maybe make Divines a bit cheaper, because if people are spamming Heist, then a lot of Chaos Orbs are gonna be removed from the economy, so it's probably not gonna have that big of an effect, but maybe a little bit. And Expedition, which to be honest doesn't really matter. You might as well just use Scarabs. They are probably gonna be cheaper than 10 Chaos, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Another thing, which is not necessarily connected to making currency, but there actually has been no nerf towards the Devouring Diadem. So that was probably the top item that people were using early on in all of the races for a lot of builds, and also in the beginning of the league. It's just very good item when you're starting your character. And everyone expected that it's gonna be nerfed, and it hasn't been nerfed. But what they did is that they said that unique items chances for Katarina has been rebalanced, which basically tells me that probably Devouring the Atom is just gonna be much rarer. So if you are planning to farm Betrayal, you're probably still gonna be able to make a lot of currency, because people still will want Devouring the Atom, but it's just gonna be much rarer. And also we don't know if it's still gonna drop from the like white and yellow maps Katarina, or maybe you're gonna now have to do it in red. I guess we'll have to see. And on the topic of helmets, we also got to know Hit Shiver nerf. So Hit Shiver is another helmet that has been pretty good, and everyone expected it's gonna get nerfed, but yeah, no nerf towards that. So, and this is probably gonna be pretty cheap. It's not a rare item, and it just drops everywhere. There's no specific thing that you can farm, so it's probably gonna be a pretty good item. And yeah, here is the Devouring the Atom if you are interested in what this item looks like. And the last thing for the strategies is nerf to Endless Heist. So obviously Endless Heist has been the best early league strategy that everyone just farmed, unless you just were rushing Atlas to go for red maps. Everyone else was just farming Heist. And now you can no longer create Book of Regression, which has been used to de-level yourself to be able to buy more contracts. And now it doesn't exist, so I think you will still want to farm Heist. What I will probably do is at level 59, I will start buying contracts. Every level I will just buy more of them, run Heist for a little bit, and then after I reach, like, let's say level 70 or something, I will stop doing it, because I will no longer get enough experience from Heist to just continue buying contracts. So you will still be able to do it for a little bit, maybe get enough currency to buy like a Tabula and Fury rare items, but after that you're gonna move on to some other strategies. Also, thanks to the Kirak map mods, heist contracts should be a bit cheaper, so you can just move on to regular heisting. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. And the last thing I want to talk about, what are my plans for the upcoming week and also for the league start. So last time, what I did is I did my Simulacrum strategy. I made a lot of videos about Toxic Rain and Simulacrum, so how to farm it. And unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. A lot of people actually followed my strategy, which led to a lot of items for Toxic Rain being cheap. Also, there has been nerfs to my strategy, because my strategy mainly focused on leveling gems. And now you can level up gems much faster, because there are some Arch Nemesis monsters that give gem experience. They also appear in 5 ways, so leveling gems in 5 ways is just super fast. And also there is a new bestiary recipe that lets you level up Awakened gems, so leveling gem is not as good as it used to be. But it's still pretty good strategy. Toxic Rain also still looks pretty good. So first thing what I want to do is I definitely want to make just one video for the same strategy. So how to do Simulacrums and Toxic Rain if you still want to do it. It is still pretty good strategy. It's just not as good as it used to be. But I personally am not gonna do it this time, not because it is worse, simply because I just like to do it once every few leagues. I don't like to do it every single time. So this time around, I actually want to do some kind of mapping strategy. I'm still not too sure which build I'm gonna go for, so I'm gonna do on my stream on twitch.tv/ZenM. I'm gonna stream some League Start prep, where I'm gonna decide on a League Starter, and once I am sure which build I'm gonna go for, then I'm gonna make also a video about that. And the last video I want to make is my top choices for some League Starter strategy. So like I said, last time I only made a Simulacrum strategy video. This time around, I'm probably gonna make video about like top 5, maybe top 10 strategies, and you can go for one of them, so that this time around not everyone that watches my video goes for the same strategy. It's just we can all go for a few different ones depending on which one we want. I also am probably not even gonna focus on just one of them. Maybe I'm gonna league start, see which items are expensive, which league mechanic looks good, and depending on that, I'm gonna choose which thing to go for. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.